aside from my soul. There goes a sight, there goes a sight. Now there goes a sight from my soul.
Hi, in this episode we're going to talk about how to choose a non-fiction book. If you're a little bit like me and you're a rather slow reader and you have a very busy life and on top of it you're very hungry for information and knowledge, then picking the right book first time right is very important. Now, as I said before, books to me are very valuable companions in my life. I need them to make sense of the world or to get a better insight on a certain topic. Or maybe I have to advise somebody, or I have to debate about a topic, and I have to know what I'm speaking about. I need to have this understanding or some level of understanding of the topic. Just enough so I can move on. So therefore, picking a book first time right is very important to me. I want to be as efficient I can possibly be to get the information. There's so many great minds out there who took the time to put their thoughts on paper, to inspire us, to inform us, and to help us to get more knowledgeable about a topic. But how to choose the right book? Well, what helps for me is what I call the little functional book graph. Let me show you how I do it.
There goes a sight from my soul.
The functional book graph. It's a very simple tool and has 4 quadrants. There are 2 important axes. The first axis is all about the provided information. And provided information can be very specific information about a certain topic, or it can be very general. The second axis is all about how practical is a book. A book can be very practical, so let's say highly practical, or can be very low on the scale of practicality. Now this brings us to 4 simple quadrants. On the top right quadrant you have the books that provide very general information about a topic and are highly practical. I like to call them the Swiss Army knives of books. These are non-fiction books who are very general in information, but highly practical. You can start to apply right away what you need. So you want to judge better a situation or other people or whatever it is that you like to do, or whatever it is that the book is talking about, you can apply it as of tomorrow. The second category is what I like to call books who give you a fish-eye perspective. So they're highly general in their provided information on a topic, but they're not practical at all, but they give you a very nice and comprehensive view on the topic, hence a fish-eye perspective. Then on the top left is what I like to call the hammer books, the hammer non-fiction books. These are non-fiction books that only explain one thing. Let's think about a manual, for example, for your camera. Well, it is highly practical and it's very specific in information. So it's like a hammer, it's a tool you can only hit a nail with it. There's nothing else you can do with that kind of book. But it can be exactly the right thing you need for certain circumstances. And on the bottom left are the books what I like to call who give you gems of insights. They are totally not practical and they're very specific. So they focus really in depth on a certain information. Now let me give you an example. I'm recently working on an episode for the blog called Detoxing from Fake News and Alternative Facts. And I went to choose several books about it to have a better understanding. I will go more in depth on these books in another episode, but let me show you how they fit into this graph. The first book is called Factfulness. And Factfulness by the incredible writer Hans Rosling. Unfortunately, the gentleman passed away, but he made a brilliant book about how to better understand the world. And this book would be definitely the Swiss Army knife of book. It is very general in information. It gives you a wonderful overview of better understanding the world, and it's highly practical. So you can really apply it as of now. While you're reading, you think about the world as you understand it, and you start to apply his concepts. A brilliant work, I think. Then secondly, you have the book called The Death of Truth by Michiko Kakutani. And this lady is an incredible writer, and she was the previous head of book critics of the New York Times. Now, this book is very general and not practical at all. So I would say it gives you a really fish-eye perspective on the topic of how to detox from fake news and alternative facts. She goes very wide and very deep into the topic, and she compares the current situation or the current era where we have Putin and we have Trump and we have what's happening in the media, and she compared it with Nixon, and she goes even further back in history, but she gives a very comprehensive, very full view, and the book is packed with information. Although it's a small book, every sentence here counts. And then you have a third book that I like to share. It is called A Short History of Truth. And this is exactly what I would like to call a book that gives you gems of insights. So Gems of Insight, I will put it over here. It is a more philosophical work, so it's not practical at all, yeah? And it's very specific. It goes absolutely into depth on what actually truth is. And he gives 10 different ways to understand the concept of truth. Very, very useful. If you want to really say, I have to advise somebody or I have to make sense of a certain situation. So imagine that you say, I want to understand the topic in depth. I want to understand what kind of truths are out there. And if I hear somebody speak on the TV, or if it's a colleague or it's an employee or whatever, what kind of truth is he trying to use? Well, this is a book for you. Yeah? If you say, I want to have a really comprehensive review of the concept in the current situation compared with what happened in history, then this book is perfect. Especially, I would buy this one if I have to debate about the topic, so that I can bring up examples from history that are well researched by a very good and respected author that I can use in my argumentation. Yeah? And thirdly, factfulness. If you say, no, I would like to travel tomorrow in the world, I want to do business with other cultures, I want to do investments in other cultures, factfulness is for you. That is the kind of book you say, very hands-on, very practical and applicable right away. Now, this is one way that I choose my non-fiction books, but maybe you have way better ways or more efficient ways to choose them. So please let me know what your way of choosing your non-fiction book is all about. If you're interested in one of these books, please feel free to consult the information on the blog or on YouTube. I put all the references of these books. And please check out the episode on detoxing on fake news and alternative facts that goes more in depth on these 3 books. Thank you. Hope to see you soon. Bye.
'Cause aside from my soul,